Oregon. This is NBC 16 News at 6:30.
First at 6:30, hundreds protesting against President Donald Trump, billionaire Elon Musk, and the White House's policies out in the rain to demonstrate today at Eugene's federal courthouse, joining a national call to action. Good evening. Thanks for joining us for NBC 16 News at 6:30. I'm Alan Matthews. Gold Meadows has the night off. NBC 16's Tiffany Lewis spoke with the President's Day protesters and has the story.
People gathered at the downtown Eugene federal courthouse protesting Trump's administration in what they call anti-democratic policies, joining a nationwide call for 50 protests, 50 states, one movement.
Show me what democracy looks like!
This is what democracy looks like!
Show me what democracy looks like!
At least 500 people gathered near the Mill Street and 8th Avenue intersection in front of the Wayne L. Morse federal courthouse. Dubbed No Kings on President's Day, the rally comes less than 2 weeks after the last round of widespread rallies and protests. The 50-51 movement was started by grassroots organizers spreading the word on Reddit forums, Instagram, Blue Sky, and other social media platforms.
It's so important to me that we are visible and that Musk and Trump, that somebody tells them that the American people are not going to lie down and just take this and go willingly into the night. We are going to fight for our democracy.
Protests follow a series of controversial executive orders signed by President Trump and actions led by billionaire Elon Musk's Doge organization. One demonstrator said she's worried about political instability and the potential loss of federal program benefits as the White House moves to lay off thousands of federal workers in an effort to shrink government and cut excessive costs.
I don't want my family to lose their benefits and their housing and their insurance.
And hundreds of cars drove by, many honking their horns in support of the peaceful protest.
We need to have empathy and we need to have diversity. We need to have inclusion. We need to have people who are willing to speak out when things aren't right.
In Eugene, I'm Tiffany Lewis reporting.
Now, in addition to Eugene, there were numerous other protests that popped up around the state, including Portland, Florence, Salem, and Coos Bay. Protests also occurring across the country in Washington, D.C., New York, and more. This is all part of the 50-51 movement. That stands for 50 protests, 50 states, one movement. Protesters speaking out against decisions by the Trump administration and the power given to Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. Here's what one protester in Portland had to say.
There's people who have been government employees for years and years and years who, despite what some people think, they actually have a job to do. For example, forest fire season is coming up. They just terminated 3,400 Forest Service people.
That in reference to the continued layoffs within the federal government that Trump, Musk, and others within his administration have pushed for. The latest target of those cuts by Musk's team, the Federal Aviation Administration. Several hundred employees with the FAA are out of a job this week. The Trump administration sent out a batch of emails late Friday night firing staff, according to a union representative. Those emails targeted probationary workers and included roles involving radar, landing, maintenance, and at least one air traffic controller. The National Air Traffic Controllers Association said today it's analyzing the impact of the cuts on aviation safety. Now, the latest on another crash involving a regional commuter jet this afternoon. The Delta flight out of Minneapolis flipped as it was landing in Toronto. All 80 on board were able to escape, though more than a dozen were rushed to nearby hospitals. NBC 16's Jay Gray has the latest on this incident.
The Delta regional jet out of Minneapolis apparently started to have problems during landing at Pearson International Airport in Toronto, skidding across the runway, then rolling over.
My friend rushed there first, and then he said the CRJ is crashed on the runway. So I was like, yeah, I gotta go check it out. And the next thing I saw is basically a plane out, the CRJ plane that basically flipped on the runway.
76 passengers and 4 crew members all survived.
First and foremost, there was no loss of life. And this is in due part to our heroic and trained professionals, our first responders at the airport. 17 injured passengers were quickly taken to local area hospitals. At this time, we do not know of any of those passengers having critical injuries.
The right wing was ripped from the plane during the crash.
That's what they're going to look at to start with. Where is that wing and how did it leave the airplane?
Former pilot John Cox says wind gust at the time may have been a contributing factor.
With it being that gusty, I think it's possible the wing may have touched the runway due to a gust. And if that's the case, then the rest of this makes sense. But the recorders are going to show that.
Canadian aviation teams are the lead in an investigation that is just beginning. Jay Gray, NBC News.
Now, just for reference, here's a look at that same airport yesterday. Crews are busy digging out the runways and taxiways after Toronto was blasted with a winter storm this weekend. Several flights in and out of the airport were delayed or canceled. Data from today's incident showed winds gusting up to 40 miles per hour with temperatures only in the teens. All right, let's turn to weather now and give you a live look over Eugene this evening, as we did see a little bit of rainfall for the day today. Not a lot, about 1/10 of an inch of rainfall reported here in Eugene, which is a little less than what we saw yesterday. And we're still going to see some more rainfall as the week progresses. Let's show you what's going on right now, as we are at 48 degrees in Eugene under a cloudy sky. South wind at about 7 and our humidity at 89%. As we look at the radar satellite, we've been tracking that rainfall moving through the northern portions of the area, Corvallis, Eugene, and you can see that rainfall is really dying out as it moves on out to the east. Now, we still could see a few scattered showers later on this evening, but I think we'll be looking at dry conditions as we get late tonight and into early Tuesday morning. Take a look at your power planner, and again, you're seeing a few scattered showers possible tonight. Otherwise, it will be a cloudy sky through most of the evening. Overnight temperatures will be in the low 40s, and then we can see some more rainfall developing tomorrow. The more significant rainfall, though, is going to hit us as we get a little bit later on in the week. Temperature-wise, we're going to be pretty near average for this time of the year, turning a little bit warmer as we get toward the end of the week. And like I said, rain will be likely on Wednesday, but we're actually looking for a break in the precipitation as we get toward the end of the week on Thursday and Friday. We'll take a look at all your weather details in just a few moments. While developing tonight, Oregon Governor Tina Kotek announcing the change to the controversial wildfire hazard map. It splits the state into 3 categories based on wildfire risk. Some homeowners in rural high-risk areas fear this map could force them off their property. Vasily Varlamos from our Salem Bureau has more on what this change means.
Oregon's wildfire hazard map, taking effect earlier this year, establishes stricter building and fire hardening codes for areas at higher risk of wildfires. Those in high-risk areas are concerned that the map will severely hurt property values. Some fear fines if property owners fail to meet the new codes required by the map. The map cannot impact insurance rates under Oregon law. Republicans say this map must be repealed.
It is unfair to place the burden of fuel reduction and wildfire mitigation solely on private property owners, while our state and federal governments fail to steward our forests and public lands adequately.
Governor Tina Kotek announcing Monday that map appeals will be accepted through the March 10th deadline. However, appeals will not be sent to the Office of Administrative Hearings until after the legislative session ends. This gives lawmakers time to rethink the map's impacts and evaluate the situation. Senator Jeff Golden says he gets the frustration of those impacted by the map.
People are understandably upset, don't know what to do, and really believe that their homes are at stake.
Golden says he knew there would need to be course correction down the road, adding he does not expect the map to be redrawn.
I think it's much more likely that we'll change the bill so it doesn't have a hazard map like this, and those designations go away. That's much more likely than going back and drawing a new map.
Lawmakers will now attempt to make changes to the bill that created this wildfire map. If no changes are made this session, ODF will make changes to the map based on the appeals sent. For NBC 16 News, I'm Vasily Varlamos.